Welcome to Empowered by AI, the podcast for women entrepreneurs ready to harness AI to take their businesses to the next level. I'm your host, Michelle Muncy-Silva, founder of Innovative AI Studios. You may have left corporate life to start this entrepreneurial journey, but you don't have to go it alone. Here, you'll find a supportive community of like-minded women and an invaluable thought partner each week, as my guests and I share actionable insights you can use right away. So let's dive in together. All right, the beautiful Cyndi Coon. Hello. Hello. I am absolutely fascinated with your journey. I have been reading about you. I just picked up your book. I am just absolutely fascinated. And I'm fangirling a little bit right now. And I'm really hopeful that you can share a bit of your journey, how you went from founding Laboratory 5 Inc., what inspired you to be, I would say, definitely the epitome of innovative in the combination of storytelling, technology, future casting, the work that you're doing. What started you on this path?
It's a journey. I would say the important pieces to where I am today. I'll take you on a quick skip hop, but there are a few key pieces that I definitely think do make up who I have become.
Mm-hmm.
That really starts with my origins. I grew up in serious poverty in Western Michigan, and yet I was incredibly motivated. I was a super weirdo. I worked starting at 10 and wore power suits to high school in the late 80s, early 90s in rural Midwest. And so I share that because part of who I am really was always in me. Like I had the weirdo gene all by myself really early. So my degrees are actually both in fine art. So my undergraduate degree was in, very popular in the 90s, installation art. And then my graduate work was in something called social practice, which is where you take a social idea and you build community and creativity around it to uplift and expand the concepts. So that led me down a path of I've done lots of different things because my brain works really fast. I actually have a divergent diagnoses that I received at 19 that I didn't understand for a really long time. And it helps me tremendously in my work. So it's also an advantage. It's called hyperlexia. And you learn to read really early. And you have a ability to really see things through in a kind of weird way. So my whole life I have described to people, when I understand a concept or project, I actually have instantly a scaffolding built all the way through. So my brain can see it. Of course, everything's moving parts, but I can really understand things from go. So why is that important? Because it allows me to work on scale. So I started out in nonprofit, which quickly I realized was not for me because it's on super repeat in nonprofit and it's this cycle I couldn't do. So I started my own company in 2003 and it's had lots of different iterations because my mind is always adding, subtracting, and building things. What really brought me to what we're talking about today is in 2016, I met my partner in crime, Brian David Johnson, who lives up on the Oregon coast. And he was the inventor of threat casting, which he invented when he was inside Intel. And then after using it for 10 years, they really realized this has to be available to the public, the government, the military. So we met and worked on a really cool project. And when that was done, we connected back in and he said, "You have the mindset. I think I would love to work with you and build this." So he had this methodology that was used to threat cast around things Intel would build as products.
Mm.
And we then together stood up the threat casting lab at Arizona State University. And my role was really to take it into a public endeavor. And I was able to do that because I worked for many years as a producer. And so I really understood human experience. And the threat casting and future casting work that I do now is a social science practice, which I know we'll get into. But at the core of it, what's the most important and what gets me up every day is the human-centric pieces. I say all that to say, really, the work I'm doing, it could be content agnostic, but it has to have humans. So that is the core of how I came. I took my art practice. And the reason I mentioned my background of coming from nothing, making me a really kind of natural futurist is when you don't have an aspect of fear of losing things, when there's nothing there to lose, when there aren't expectations up against you, because that doesn't exist in those frameworks, I think I'm really able to see the world differently because that just doesn't exist in me. I don't have that like other people do because it's not there. So I started my company Laboratory 5 in 2003. And as I said, it's had many iterations, but it's always dabbled in the super imagination, creativity, and ultimately I'm just really nerdy. So there is like stuff that I do that would look from the outside like it's some skill set or something, but it's just somebody in the same way when you're creative and you're in the studio and you're exploring and experimenting. It's the same thing for me with all this science. I just treat it the same.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And can you help us in layman's terms really understand how threat casting works and how it can benefit organizations?
Yep. Threat casting and future casting are both ways to look into the future. You pick your time horizon. We often do 10 years because that's possible for the humans. You go much beyond that and you need more training. How it looks is just like this in a really fast nutshell. It's a social science methodology that we have a topic and then we drill down on a very specific research question. What are we asking? Then we decide, what are we going to do with it? And all of this stuff is sequential. You can't move forward until you do each step. And if you got the book, if you read the front part, the methodology goes in order and you got to follow the order. So once you have that research question nailed down, which can take time because it's really hard for humans to really ask rich questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are you going to do with it? We can't move forward until you can't just have a random report on a shelf. This is applied work.
Mm-hmm.
So then we move into determining the event. So how we conduct this research is through experiential gamified events. So participants come into the room and before they're there, we do our data collection as a lab. So we're interviewing subject matter experts, pulling things from videos, podcasts, book chapters, any resources. We're often synthesizing that data before we walk in the room. And what that means is we're creating lines that then once lines of information like Gen Z is more likely to blah, blah, blah. And when you get on your small team, because it's all gamified in the room, you're conducting research, but we make you have so much fun that you forget. And so I tell you, writing a movie script. And when you get on your small team, the first action you take is you roll a 60-sided die 3 times, or maybe 6, depending on the numbers of line of data. Whatever you land on, that's the data you have to build with. You get no choice. So whatever you got is what you get. Then you go into our workbooks, which are custom for every single event. And what you do is over the course of this round, which could take 2.5 to 3 hours, you are building what we call an effects-based model. So it's all the pieces we need to figure out if something like this were to happen, what do we need to know? So how that happens in the room, the teams don't need to worry about that. That's our work on the back end. They're having fun in the room building this movie script. And they have to begin with building a person in a place. And we want you to get juicy with it. I want you to tell me what ice cream they like, what's their dog name, hobby, where they work, their friends. Now at the end, when I go to analyze that, I'm not going to care what the ice cream is. But The reason that's built in is because I want you to be empathetic. It is an empathy hack so that you build a human you really love. Because in a minute here, if I'm threat casting with you, I'm going to make you become the adversary and now destroy that beautiful life that you just made. And I want you to destroy it to the worst possible of your imagination. This is why I don't send you out into the future, because you would not want to tell me this stuff. I have you build a scout out into the future. Now, when your scout's life is destroyed, it's not your life. It's a movie. We're writing a script. Now you feel bad. You feel really bad. And so now we're going to do what is called backcasting. And I'm going to backcast you from the future time horizon, 10 years or whatever you chose, back to today. And on that path of doing that, if we're threat casting, I'm going to have you figure out how to disrupt, mitigate, and potentially recover. And if we're future casting, we're going to enable really big opportunity. And we can threat cast and future cast together. We can have something horrible happen, and then we can create opportunity out of the horrible threat. And what we're trying to get you through is you're going to build who's responsible, who do we call, what do we know? And you don't need to know them by name. You just say, this really feels like academics need to be involved. This really feels like law enforcement should be involved. And so you build this entire model over the 2.5, 3 hours as a team, and then you break, and then you do it all over again with different lines of data. So you roll the dice again, you do it all over again. Usually we do this over the course of 4 days. So we'll build 4 models per team times the number of teams. Then when we're all done, our analysis team works in the lab, and we have the back end of our methodology, which is also in the book. That is a 4-round series to get to our future findings. And they are very accurate, but we do not work in crystal balls or prediction. It's science. So what we deliver is 5 potential futures. It can be more or less, but around 5. And we say, it will not be any of these exact futures, but it will be components of every one. So this might beget this, and you have to pay attention. And the reason no one can deliver fully predicted futures is because of one specific reason. The humans. They are so weird. The joy and delight in what I get to do to use this scientific methodology is I get to look at humans and all the crazy stuff they might do. And we've been doing this for a number of years now. So we now have all of our previous reports and data that we can look at and see our signals and markers across the landscape. So that's the gist of it. We like to tell people they're basically building the movie script that we would then hand over to our next door neighbors, which are the world builders. So that's our place in where we live. We are, if you put kind of strategy, foresight, scenario over here, and we're in the middle of future casting, threat casting, and then you have the world builders and real life war game folks.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking the whole time that you're talking, it's like, how did you not get invited to the table pre-COVID? Because this just seems like such an aligned type of work where governments and organizations would be doing this with you in order to predict and prepare for these situations that are just what we constantly refer to as unprecedented.
Yeah. I will tell you this, what we do have is also a partner lab. So we're qualitative. Both my labs are qualitative. And then I have a partner who's quant. And so we, during COVID, worked together and learned how to lob our stuff over the wall to each other so we can take his quantitative, turn it into qual, and vice versa. And his name is Dr. Tim Lant, and he did do that. So he did do that for the federal government. So just prior to the pandemic, that occurred, not as a threat casting, but as a full scale decision exercise.
Wow. Wow.
It does all the time. Pandemic play out like that happens about every 2 years.
Fascinating.
Mhm.
All right. Your work with content evolution and the development of digital twins is another incredibly
Mhm.
forward-thinking experience. Can you walk us through that process of creating digital twins and what that entails?
Yes, it has been a joy and a delight. So I'll tell you back to that nerd factor thing that lives inside of me. We did research in 2017 on Gen AI. So I was keeping my eye out. And so 2 years ago, November 22, when Gen AI came out, I just dove completely in, completely engaged, completely interested. And through that, I met some other folks who are inside of the Content Evolution Federation, which is a federation of 50 CEOs, and we do things together. And there were some other AI nerds. And so we decided to just meet up on Friday afternoons because we could. And at first we were just sharing, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Then fast forward about a year when ChatGPT custom GPTs came out.
Mhm.
We were immediately playing with them, doing a lot of discovery. How could these be used? And then we started to really mess around with the knowledge and how could we upload them with knowledge and create ourselves so that people could have conversations with us. So I'll tell you this, here's the real secret to creating a human digital twin, because there's not as much work in this. There's a lot. You can create a digital twin right now of a room, a building, a whole city, but there aren't digital twins with the content that's coming from cognitive engagement. You can do a digital twin, an avatar that looks like you. And we were messing around with how to make this happen. And finally, through a lot of work and playful work, but we discovered the key is a structured interview, which is right up my alley and my work. And these things started to come alive the minute we discovered how to put life in them, which is now we've created over 30 of these for the individuals in the Federation. And we do that. The knowledge uploaded, everyone's identical. It's the same, meaning the pieces. And so we are able to really run this grand experiment to see how they're running. Are things going differently? Because they're built the same instructions. You just have the change out of your interview, my interview.
Mhm.
And the interviews, we also discovered something of value, which is you can't type your interviews out. It works so if you get on Zoom and record your own interview, but they become real and alive if you give the interview questions to someone else that knows you
Mhm.
and have them interview you, because what they'll do is say, oh, but wait, you stopped yourself there, Cyndi. Tell a little more about that. That was a good story. Tell all that.
Yeah.
Making a structured interview that you are interviewed for is what's going on inside of these digital twins, and they're extraordinary. And we are using them for everything. And what's really cool is we're using with each other's.
Mhm.
So our digital twins are doing things together now. So it's just been, we're not techie people. We're not AI experts. We are adventurers who are willing to explore and experiment. And because of it, and because we committed the time too, we come together every Friday for an hour, and that made the big difference. And we have assignments, and we'll call each other out. Hey, you got to do your piece. And so the growth of it was exponential. And it's a really cool thing. And what we're using them for is as if we have our own assistants to wipe away the blank page. Because we're all CEOs, we all have really packed schedules. And sometimes it's like, you say you have to write an email that's a little longer form about something specific, and it's, oh my God, I don't even have the headspace. So my digital twin, I will feed into her, hey, here's the brochure about this, and I need you to write this letter. And it's as if I have a great young assistant who hands me something that I can then just edit. And we're doing it for proposals, we're doing it for all kinds of things to engage. And what would this person do? What do they think? And now I have a digital twin too that I've built that has even more structure in it, that you can go talk to the digital twin me about everything I've done and am doing in Gen AI. So
Wow.
the more specific you get with a digital twin right now, just as a tip, the better. And you're better served if you have several different twins who do really specific things. And then when agents come out, we're hoping we can put them together and braid them together, but that's not here yet. But
No, I was just going to ask you about the connection to agentic AI, but you just answered. It's like you predicted what I was going to say. For female entrepreneurs, for small business owners who might feel intimidated by some of this tech, how can a digital twin simplify their work? You touched on a little bit of it right there at the end, but potentially there's so many areas. How do you really sell it to someone, let them see what's possible?
I think the front end of your question there was it feels intimidating, or how do you jump in, or it's like techie. I want to address that because I think it's really important, especially for business owners. There is absolutely no fast and easy in this space. I really caution people against any charlatans who are selling, learn to be a prompt engineer, make money with ChatGPT. None of that is real. That is literally like saying to someone, how you could make money is using Microsoft Office. How you could make money is using Photoshop. It's software. So don't get caught up in it being anything of other than that's the most important thing. And then how do you engage, especially if it is intimidating or you don't feel like you're technically savvy? Pick one lane in AI and commit to playing. So these tools, first of all, they change every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Not kidding.
It's so true.
So don't try to take some class where someone teaches you, because by the time then you get back around it, you'll be like, wait, nothing matches.
Yeah.
So you have to do this on your own right now. You have to commit to the time, but you have to find what would get me engaged. So what I mean by that is, do you want to write or look up recipes or do research? Okay, then Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity. But do you want to like make some movies or something? Or do you want to make music, or on and on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just pick one thing to play and do not worry about how it's going to help your business. Because if you try to get into something right now and think, I got to learn this, and then I got to adapt it, and then I got to put it towards something with some ROI, it is not going to work. And it is not going to work because the tools aren't ready. They're not. Now, that said, I absolutely use Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT for research I'm doing, for proposal support. It makes a lot of things go faster, but it doesn't make anything really go away for now. So here's the big ticket is, if you're not playing with AI, you have to get in and just play, just explore. Because in 10 minutes, we're going to have agents. And if you don't have some general familiarity with how all this AI has been cooking along, when it just shows up as agents, you are going to feel like you are stepping in the Jetsons. And the rest of the people, which is still a very small minority of people who are playing with Gen AI, are going to understand right away what to do, because they've played with films, songs, writing. Naturally, when these agents come in and you can start to see how you're going to be able to plug in, what do you need? Do you need an agent who will comb your email and help you be responsive? Do you need an agent that does scheduling? Whatever it is, it's not going to be organic in the beginning. It's going to take work. And so I think if you could play now, get a little more comfortable, then when the real things come that really are going to help us, which it's coming, there's nothing on the market that I would say you need to invest in right now, because it's all too baby. It's teeny toddler. But if you don't play in the game right now, when it's really live and you start to see all these people around you, wow, they're really benefiting, they're really incorporating. That's because they played.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest thing is right now, I'm doing all kinds of fun stuff. Is it cutting things short? Is it no? It's fun and I'm learning. And I'll tell you the best part about it is my imagination has been amplified by using, and I'm a trained artist, but still using these tools have made me absolutely more imaginative and creative over the last 2 years, hands down, because I can realize things. Even here's another good example. I can use these tools to make really poor examples of a visual I want and hand that over to my professional designer. And she's, oh, great. Yep, got it. I understand where you're going. Where before we'd be on the phone and I would be word salading because I had this notion of something. So in those ways, it has to, and my designer loves it. She's, yeah, use that AI with 10 fingers and then I'll go make it for you. So those are the kind of things that I think can be helpful for folks.
Yeah. And you actually, speaking of play and creative, you have a book, Thrive. Okay. The Creative Guidebook to Professional Tenacity. I love that title. Absolutely love it. Anybody using the word tenacity in a book title, I'm hooked. And you talk about in your book how creatives often see themselves as get it done types who have to do everything themselves. And I know that is so parallel with that entrepreneurial journey of I'm bootstrapping this. And so I see that as a side by side similarity.
Mhm.
And so, what tips can you help us with? What sage advice for fostering creativity while maintaining that balance? Do you see
Yep.
AI as that pathway, or what kind of vision do you have for that?
Yeah, I want to say at the top really quick, because you're talking about a different book. So just to clarify, when I was talking about the book earlier, I was talking about the threat casting book.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
just to be
Life
clear.
is good. Life is good.
Yeah.
I got you. Yes.
Yeah. Here's what I believe. So I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life, and I have had my company for 22 years. And when things got really the muddiest, and what I mean by that is the professional was muddy. I wasn't practicing my creative practices. I wasn't doing things that keep the balance. What I always come back to, first of all, I meditate every single day. And I would say the reason I can be, and if I've got 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. If I've got 50. What I do with that, though, is I don't try to clear my mind. That's not how I meditate. I bring it all in. It's juicy. I got a whole world in there. I'm exploring, I'm meeting people. And when I do that, then I'm reminded that when we work and work and work and we think we're the only ones, the burnout is so real. And it won't, no matter how hard we work, it won't make the fears, the imposter syndrome. It's not, you can't outrun it. So that's what I think a lot of us try to do in the early stages is we try to work ourselves to death thinking we can topple that. But the truth is, it's just a made up construct. All of that stuff that kind of keeps us from achieving, keeps us from being creative, having time with our imaginations. It's rough because there's all kinds of tips I could give, but they're what work for me and they're what I've cultivated to work for me. But I will tell you, I think the one thing that I know I've given this advice to other people and they've given me feedback that, yes, that's helpful, which is don't put a label on what is creativity, what is imagination, especially if you have any background or training at all in any form of the arts, you will be the hardest on yourself. And if making a beautiful meal or making a beautiful bouquet of flowers, you stand back and go, I made that. That is creative. That is wonderful. Pause to honor that. Because the more you do, or you like put on a sassy outfit, like whatever you feel like I did this, don't brush right past it. Because that just pause, slow down, Say, this was an act of creativity that came out of me, and be loving towards yourself. I am totally in love with myself. I think I am groovy, and that is uncomfortable for people to say, but I really mean it. You know why I can say that? Because I know I'm getting up every day, doing my best practice for the whole world and all the good I can do. So what I try to do is separate myself. You'll in the book, I talk about hats a lot. I draw pictures of hats a lot. I think there's a stack of hats.
Yeah.
How we have to do that. So the thing I would ask is, can you build for yourself a gentle, loving hat that you can put on at least once a day and honor all that you're doing? Because the act of being an entrepreneur, of owning your own business, that in itself is creative. The way we have to hustle and have grit and tenacity and be really present all the time, that is a creative act. Sometimes we're performative because we have to be. That's the biggest thing, is because I think I do lots of things. I spend a ton of time in nature. I live up in the mountains because I require a lot of rejuvenation from nature. I travel a lot. And when I come back, I need to recover.
Mhm.
And the only way I can do that is with nature for me, but that's not for everybody. And I have to meditate, but that's not for everybody. So I'm always hesitant to say these things work. I think the thing that works the most is find a practice where you can say, I really do love myself right now. Today, 5 minutes because I did this. And if you do that all the time, then you actually end up feeling far more creative, because you're noticing how often your human is actually being creative. And if you put this hat on, not being yourself for a minute, and I do this with myself, especially when I'm really hard on myself, when I'm trying to accomplish something that's tough, I will say, hey, human caring for Cyndi's body and life right now, if she were over here and this weren't you, would you be saying and doing all of those things? Or would you make it your mission to care for her so much that she can keep going? And those are the practices I try to do. And I do think it's what's helped me stay in business solo for so many years, because I honor that I'm doing great because it's hard. It's all hard.
Yeah, that kindness to self, I think that some of the best conversations we can have are being grateful for what we've been able to do that day, that small win, that small get,
Yes,
whatever it was. Nothing is too small. If you can just recognize that, I truly do feel that a whole new world opens up because your focus shifts.
exactly. Exactly. Yep. And you gift yourself actually time. So I often tell people, you want to know, I have a whole talk I do on how to shop, steal, and something else time. And what I say during that is, the time wasted crapping on yourself, if you could pull that back and be loving and gentle, you would have so much more time. It's why one of the reasons I call myself a time traveler, because I know how to manage time in a way that I don't waste it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a gift to give yourself.
Yep. It
Kind
takes
of.
training.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, we tend to zero in on the negative. It's human nature. And I think to beat that is the big win. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly. Also, I am a ridiculously positive optimist. Like, I will drive you crazy. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I'm optimistic. And part of that also goes back to being a futurist and the idea that I know how to do the work to gaze into the future. And what becomes of that is I get to see ahead of time the stuff that doesn't happen.
Hmm.
So it makes me very positive every day.
Yeah. And I'm wondering what role women playing in shaping this future, whether it be the future of generative AI or this opening of the online space and this democratization of abilities now that we can all get in and we can all be ourselves that we truly want to be. That, and I agree with you, that is totally an expression of creativity. What kind of role do you see women playing specifically in this opening space?
right now, Gen X women are dominating this space, just dominating. You may not always hear of them because the men folks still get attention, as with any industry, but in every community I am in, and I'm in a lot of AI communities now, the Gen X women are dominating mostly, I believe, because they're at a point in their life where they have available time. They're a lot empty nesters or changing career or whatever your story was. There's also this opportunity for women because it's a real freedom that you do not need. There's no prerequisites. That's the thing. I just jumped in and yeah, I've done research on AI, but I don't know how to program or code or do any AI like that. And I don't want to. I actually, during the last bit, tried some of that and went, yeah, it's not for me. It's not my lane. So I think that women more than anything have so much to gain during this time because there's no barriers to stop us from getting in. All of it's public, open source. It is a wild cowboy time for us to just grab the reins. And that's what I mean about playing. My skill level in generative AI is off the charts because I'm in all these clubs and groups and we have assignments and we say, oh, go make a movie the next 4 weeks. And we do. Am I going to do that in my company? No. But what I do know is now what I am doing is helping people, not with the tools, because like I said, it's too early. And this is the thing I would say for women more than anything. What to be in a futures headspace and to play in this Gen AI space, it's just, it really comes down to mindset more than anything. And that's what I'm doing with this Gen AI work more than anything. I'm not using it so much in my product. I'm using the understanding I have in building the digital twins, in playing with all the tools. I understand the mindset it takes to get in this space. And it's open-mindedness and positivity and all of the same things we use in futures mindset that you have to have, or it's going to be a really tough road. I think now is the time more than ever too. And this is hard. So what I'm about to say, I acknowledge is hard, but how we could best serve ourselves is to get off the guy train and just lead with unconditional love, curiosity, a desire to explore, and just put everybody on alert that we're playing and exploring. And yeah, that's not the man way. You figure it out and you use it and there's purpose. That's not the era we're in. So we're going to have to shake off that masculine tendency to get it right, because it's going to be a long time before we're going to get it right in this space. So if you're somebody who feels like you need to know and get it right before jumping in, you're going to end up super behind.
Yeah. And that's oftentimes the bill that we're sold, right? Is that you have to have the degree, you have to have the knowledge, and women tend to hold themselves back more frequently than men who will jump in and fake it till they make it. And I think a lot of times we have bought into this wrong bill of goods. Really, it's that idea that we have to have the degree, we have to justify this, we have to have the steps, we have to have followed the path because I have to do it even better than say he did it because I'm proving myself. But at the same time, it's wait a minute, this is a whole new world.
Yep. Yeah, the women have to be flawless and dance backwards in heels. It's coming. It's still never enough anyway, as we know. So I think it's coming to a place where if women want to get in on this, they have to jump in the reverse of all of that and be okay. Like everyone I know really engaging in this space, and it is deeply affecting all of our practices, no matter where they're at. We also constantly all say, and this is the permission space that's so cool right now. We all say, don't call me an AI expert. If somebody's calling themselves an AI expert, I hope they're like actual AI, because in Gen AI, we're all just screwing around. We're all just playing. And if any of the tools ever become solidified, yeah, maybe you can be an expert in that one thing. I know people who are better in this program than that program, but they are not an expert because it literally is a mess. We call them janky pieces of SHIT because you can't trust them, none of that. So don't worry about getting it right. There's nothing to get right. It's all just playland right now. Permission to play. That's
Yes.
what we should be right now.
Permission granted. I love it. I love it. Looking ahead, as you so often do, what's next for you and your work? You have so many different pieces.
Yeah, so many pieces. So I will say lots more play in AI. I also lots more to come in my future space. I have a dynamic group of incredible women in futures that we are building some really big portals to the future, I will say. I also have an incredible group of women in Web3 that we actually have a book coming out in December. They're incredible, but that partnership is always really important to me. I'm a collaborator. I like to play and do and build with others. So those areas, I have a lot of cool stuff coming in the future here. And then the other thing I'm really focused on with the threat casting and future casting is global. So foresight was invented after World War II in the US, and we have it down. We use it. Most of our agencies have foresight divisions. And then my future casting, threat casting, we have embedded in a lot of government agencies, the military, corporations. So I will say, I really am a person who wants to do everything in a full committed way. And what gets me out of bed and drives me to really building a future that supports others to be able to gaze into the future and know how to do it is really important to me. And I have this haunting voice that I hear every day, which is from this woman named Tina Navarro in Finland. I did a project in 2020, threat casting, and she was a participant and she was into it and she loved it. And then when it was all over, we had a after action get together. And she said to me, you in the West, you hoard your future's knowledge and you do not do your work to get it around the world. And man, did I hear that. Now, there's certainly futures practices all over the world, not to negate others, but what she meant was these kind of methodologies, we can do deeper training, this kind of stuff. So I think about her. And so my goal is to be far more global, which I've been doing the last 3 years and running around the world trying to teach and train as many people as possible. This is the futures work. The threat casting book is already out. The future casting book will be out in early 2020 or mid 2025, I think. It's all non-proprietary. We want you to read it, learn it, do it on your own. You don't even need us. What's my biggest focus for my future is how can I ensure other people's lives go their best because they have some tiny droplet of ability to gaze into the future and make plans and decisions that are not fear-based.
Yeah. And that is no small goal.
No, it is not.
That might keep you active for a few more years.
Yeah, it's going to keep me busy.
Oh my goodness. You mentioned before, as we wrap this up, before I let you go, you mentioned the priority of women being in spaces where it was safe to play
Yeah.
and to not be perfect and to take these janky tools to where they will. Do you have recommendations for women for groups that they could join? Do you have groups that stand out in your mind as being embracing of people like that?
First and foremost, I would say if you are interested in dipping your toes in the water of Gen AI, the first place to go is to the AI Salon. and I will get you that link. The AI Salon has nearly 2,000 people in it now. It's about to celebrate its second anniversary coming up in December. And it's free. There's no cost or anything. It's a community, like a Discord kind of thing, but it's all about sharing. Everyone in it's generous. So when you come in, you go to the left-hand side, there's a 7-step get to know what's in here. It's about, we want everybody in there to be generous, curious. If you're a jerk, we'll kick you out. That's not what it's about. It's about caring about other people and lifting other people up as they explore and play. And then as you run down the side, there's a ton of clubs you can join. So if you said, okay, this next month, I'm going to go explore video, AI video, go join the AI video club and see what they're working on and say, hi, I'm brand new. I just joined. And they'll say, hey, great, jump in. Here's what we're doing. So I run a prototyping club over there, and we do basically how it works is it's 4-week sprints. So you find out what is a sprint in whichever category, and there's everything. There's policy, there's education, there's like super deep nerd stuff. If you're way into it and you want to go in that lane, there's everything. And it's all about sharing. And then you just go, hey, everybody, look what I made. I did my first Midjourney or something. And everybody cheers you and says, yay, here's some other tips. Those are the kind of communities you want to find. You shouldn't be paying for them. Don't pay for AI communities right now, because I understand people are trying to make a living and do that, but that's not for you. That's for people who maybe are a little more advanced and are like, oh, I'm going to go work with this guy because I really want to learn this stuff. Find or start your own club. If you have 3 other women who are like, hey, I'm interested in this too, give yourselves assignments. Say, okay, we're going to meet once a week and each of us have to go off and do this one little thing and then come back and talk about it. That's how you grow this community. Is you have to be generous, you have to be curious, and you just really have to share with one another, because no one knows what they're doing. No one. And so I would recommend that space. And then there's a lot of humans that I would pay attention to, like Rachel Wood. She's got an excellent AI advice. I watch everything she posts. She's really on it. Yeah, but I think creating community right now, and because it can be intimidating to join an online community too, I understand, jumping in with a bunch of stuff going on. But I do promise you, if you find free communities where people are just generously sharing, that's where to be. Go play.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And thank you. I would agree with you. I just joined AI Salon not more than 2 weeks ago. So
You can have the address.
I would agree. That is a fantastic community.
Mhm.
I appreciate you so much. This has just been an absolute pleasure. I'm so grateful that you were willing to join. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it's been a delight. I love to chat about all this stuff. And I'll just say the easy for me to say yes is also you are focusing on women entrepreneurs, which always has my heart bigger than anything else. So that's an easy yes.
Oh, thank you so much. My whole goal is to amplify as much as possible the women in this space and to encourage others to join.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you hugely. Thank you.
Hey, you too. Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowered by AI. If today's episode sparked ideas, don't wait. Follow the link in the show notes to visit innovativeaistudio.com and download your free resource, created to help you put today's insights into practice. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with more tips, tools, and inspiring stories. Until next time, stay empowered and keep innovating.